Oh, editing. It never ends.
Not weird. Not weird at all.
Udon.
And we have hail.
There are some things I really enjoy about editing. There is always a little bit of excitement when you get your manuscript back from the editor, whether they're going to have positive things to say or whether they're just going to tell you to burn it and walk away. But it is a process that I enjoy, probably more the developmental edit side of things, because they raise questions that a reader might have, or where you've left little Easter eggs, but it's not really enough for the reader to connect the dots and remember that tiny detail from, you know, like 100 pages ago. And it's kind of a problem-solving thing. You get issues in your manuscript highlighted, and they're issues that generally you don't see because you know where the plot is going. And you end up coming up with new scenes, or you change scenes around a little bit in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise done had someone not challenged you on that in a particular way. And you just end up with this story that is so much thicker and richer than you ever would have imagined. And I kind of can't imagine ever publishing a book without using an editor, because I feel that my editor has added so much to my books. That being said, there are parts of the editing process that make me want to scratch my eyeballs out. Going line by line through 350 pages, adding commas, removing commas, whatever, has been something that I haven't missed since the last time that I did this. On the plus side, there's been a lot less of that this time. I think you learn something new with every book that you write, and I tend to find that I make the same mistake throughout the entire book a billion times. And each book has been different, and I'm not making the mistakes I was making with the first one and the subsequent ones, but it does sort of drive you insane once you learn what it is that you didn't learn at school for whatever reason. I'm dyslexic, so there's a lot of those things that about like fine grammar and things like that that I just left in the past. And going through, once I've learnt, oh, that's what I needed to do, it drives me insane how many times you then find that in a book. The last time I edited a manuscript was about 2 years ago. This is the manuscript for book 3 in the Phoenix series, and it was technically mostly ready to go off to the editor sort of mid 2020. I just had to go through and tidy it up a little bit, but 2020 happened and I just struggled to cope with last year and everything that was happening, and being a small business owner and dealing with all of that stuff and having staffing problems and pandemic problems and having 2020 problems. And I thought when I took this time off work that I would be way more productive in terms of pumping out books and finally getting onto it. And it's, what are we in? End of September. It's basically October and I'm only just now getting around to this. And it's not because I lost a love for writing or anything like that. There's been a lot that has happened, and that has kind of derailed me, and my equilibrium just kind of shifted when I left work. And it took me a while to find a place to sit. And I just seem to lose every day very quickly. It just seems to get to 5 p.m. really quickly, and the way I write has shifted as well. So it's just taken me a little bit of time to get going this year, but hopefully we're almost there. So I've set a deadline to submit this for final edits by the first week of October, and I'm about 80 pages in. So I've got a bit of work to do, and we'll see if I can get it done in time. I am starting to feel like the kind of conflict I was having between wanting to be outside and enjoying all the amazing things that the Bay has to offer, and just kind of doing whatever I wanted with the day and what I need to do for work. I'm starting to feel like that conflict is sort of resolving itself. I have all of a sudden started to feel the urge to edit, to write, to get these other books out, to really focus in on doing that, which is convenient because my book is due at the editor in 8 days. And this is how much I've done, and this is how much I've got to do. So I got some work to do over the next few days. But there are always going to be distractions like fillings that need to be replaced and a root canal that suddenly pops up very painfully from nowhere. And my oven has just decided to stop working, and all of these things will just kind of create distractions and things that chew up your time, and it's so easy to let them take over the day. But I'm starting to feel like, as much as I can, I'm pushing those things to the side. I mean, obviously I have to deal with the root canal very quickly because I was in agony, but I'm trying to kind of like not let it derail me too much. But I was in quite a lot of pain. So I guess I'm kind of like pushing those distractions to the side a little bit. And obviously there are some things that like you just have to deal with when they pop up, like raging tooth nerve pain. You can't ignore that. And you know, I've got things going on still this week. Tomorrow I've got to go and have part 2 of the root canal, and then on Saturday I've got to have my second Pfizer vaccine, which my understanding is that's the one that's kicks people's ass. But I've also still got to finish this, so I'm just gonna have to get on with it and try and get into a better swing of things, because there's a possibility that I'm going to go back to work for 2 or 3 days a week, and that will just kind of help fund the things that I want to be doing in terms of marketing and promotion. And I would like to get some more artwork done, and I can get it. It's really expensive, and it freaks me out how much money you spend when you're not working. So there are a number of things happening, but I am starting to feel like I'm really focusing more on the writing. So it's probably about a third done, and the way I'm doing it is I'm going through like the edited changes that my editor has suggested, and then I'm kind of just doing them and making them, and then I go through and reread the chapter again and make any amendments that I want to make. And then I go through and read it all again and make sure it flows properly. And I've made some pretty significant changes so far, not to the overall plot, because the plot and where I want the characters to end up has been the same since day one. That hasn't changed even after all these years. And like, I guess that's where I haven't really worried too much about finding beta readers, even though finding them has been difficult, because I'm not so worried about what they think of the overall plot, because it's going there regardless of what anyone says, because it's the way it's always supposed to go. So it is a bit of a laborious task, but I'm finding that I always really like the editing process as much as I've like dragged my feet with it this time. That's more of a like mindset problem as opposed to a not enjoying editing problem. I like editing because you get to kind of come up with ideas to solve problems that you hadn't really noticed were there. And then once you go in with that eye, you see other problems and you can iron them out. And it just makes it such a tighter, more well-rounded book. And then like, honestly, I find when I have a bit of space from the manuscript or from the book and you go back and read it, you're like, I kind of can't believe I wrote this. This is, you know, it makes it feel just so much more polished and real, but there is still a lot to be done. The other thing I'm starting to look at is cover design, and the first 2 books, so if I pull them down, they're sort of non-standard YA covers. And I know that's one of the things that people always say, make sure your cover looks like it should fit in the genre, but my thing with YA books is that a lot of them always look exactly the same. Like there's nothing to make one cover really stand out from the next, and sometimes what makes YA covers stand out, it is a lot of money, and I didn't want to spend that much money. And also it's like my first book and I'm trying to learn and do the process, and I was thinking about establishing a brand and a cohesive look across the 6 books, and I wanted it to kind of stand out a little bit if it was on the shelf. And what I should have done is think more about the colors and the flow of the colors through the series, but everything else I feel like I thought about, so I don't know why I didn't think about that more. But that could just be because it's hard for me to imagine what they're going to look like, given that they're not going to look like a standard rainbow. But anyway, and so the seasons are marked out on the spine of the book. A different animal that is relevant to each story is on the front. But I mean, I do realize that these are not necessarily screaming like a book about magic and witchcraft and elves and werewolves, but I still kind of like them, and I like that they're different, and I like that they stand out a little bit. But I do know that that can kick me in the pants a little bit, that I haven't made it scream School of Wizardry basically. But you know, it is what it is. So now I'm kind of thinking about the 3rd book in the series, what it's going to look like, and starting to get to the point where I would email my cover designer and say, hey, it's time to go. I just want to be a little bit more into the editing process and have the back cover blurb written, which I haven't written yet. I can't believe I forgot about it, but it's not done yet. So yeah, so it's kind of cool to get to this point where you're going, okay, so now we're going to wrap this thing up and put it in a cover, and it's getting real. And once this goes off to the editor, I will continue working on book 4. Traditionally, I have not published until the next book has at least a skeleton draft. I don't think I'll do that because I've taken so long with this one, which is just the side effect of COVID and burnout. So I'm just going to get steamrolling into 4, 5, and 6, and I'm glad that I already have parts of 5 and 6 written. So hopefully 4, 5, and 6 I can get out in the next 12 months would be the goal, but we'll see how we go. And I think going back to work, even if it's only 2 days a week, will help me feel a little bit more comfortable with that plan, because I think it will make me kind of more disciplined with my time, because I don't have all the time now to get around to doing things when I get around to it, which makes me pretty time inefficient. But it will also kind of help with the cost of publishing a book, which is not small if you engage editors. And I'm getting a really good deal, I think, on my editing. It's like, I can't remember what it is. I did the maths anyway. But it does really all add up. I see a lot of author tubers talking about how much it costs to publish their books, and a lot of them have like Photoshop skills and stuff like that, so they can make their own cover. I am not tech savvy, so I can't do any of that stuff, so I have to pay for someone to do it. But like even their editing costs, I'm like, holy shit, how did they not pay that much for editing? And then I realized it's because most of the books that they're publishing are about 60 to 70,000 words, and this one is nearly 150,000 words. So there's a bit of a difference in size, and so that's going to double your costs. So I think I'm on par, but it's still an expensive process. And if I've got 3 more books to go after this, plus whatever else I work on in the future, like it just adds up, and it's really hard to like just see your bank balance just disappearing, especially if you're not at work. So that's kind of the update. That's where I'm up to. Got 8 more days to get this done, and then it'll be done-ish once I read through it 6,000 more times.